Today we're covering the Chapter 6 and 7 review for the test that's coming up. So, number 1, at the beginning of 2003, V. Allen owned 10 model train cars and he purchased 3 model train cars each year. Complete the table to represent the number of model train cars he has Y years after 2003. How many model train cars did Allen have after 8 years? Okay, so in 2003, he had 10. And then he's going to purchase 3 more every year after that. So in 2004, he's going to buy 3 more. That makes 13. Well, 2004 would be 1 year after that. We're looking for 3 years, 5 years, even 8 years. So let's get an equation. If we just start every problem with an equation. He starts with 10 model trains, and he's going to add 3 more each year. Each is a word that means to multiply, so that's 3 times however many years. So then I can plug in the numbers from the chart. 3, if I plug in 3, it'll be 3 times 3, which is 9, and 9 plus 10 makes 19. Then if I plug in the 5, it would be 3 times 5, which is 15, plus 10, 25. The next one would be 3 times 8, plus 10, which would be 34. And then you could go ahead and fill it out the rest of the way, but it did ask for just 8 years, so that would be 34. Question 2. What equation matches the graph? So to write an equation, we're going to need a slope and a y-intercept. And let's find the y-intercept first because he's the easy one to find. It's where the line crosses the y-axis, and it crosses right there. So that makes this y-intercept 8. And then the slope would be the change of y over the change of x. So we need to pick 2 points. Well, we've already got one. That's 0, 8. Let's go for this one down here, which would be 4, 0. So the y for that one is 8 minus the y for this one is 0. The x that went with 8 is 0. The x that went with 0 is 4. And then we work it out. 8 minus 0 is 8. 0 minus 4 is negative 4. And then 8 divided by negative 4 makes negative 2. So the slope is negative 2. Slope is the number that multiplies times x. And the y-intercept is the one that's by itself. This one, the first choice, looks really close, but their 8 is negative. The next one looks like it has the right numbers, but they're multiplying x times 8, and 8 is not the slope. The number that is the slope needs to be multiplied times x. So the only left, it would be the last one. Number 3, write an equation to match the table. Which statement describes a relationship between x and y in the table? So let's write an equation first, and then we can figure out which statement. So to write an equation, we need the y-intercept and the slope. I'm going to use the whole numbers to find my slope because nobody likes to subtract fractions. So the 2 y's I just picked were 6 minus 5. And the x that goes with 6 is 10, and the x that goes with 5 is 8. 6 minus 5 is 1. 10 minus 8 is 2. So the slope is a half, or 1/2. Remember, slope is the number that we put times x. The y-intercept is not showing. Remember, y-intercept is where x is 0. So look for the pattern here. If we go back to, see how they're counting by 2? It's a little bit confusing because they kind of give you a different one for this. But the different one has a fraction. We don't want to deal with fractions. So what if I skip that for a minute? Actually, what if I just skip the fraction part? And if I just go by 2, before 2 if I went 8 minus 2, I'd get 6. And on the bottom here, it's plus 1. So if I went backwards from 5, I would get 4. So let's go backwards until we get to the y-intercept. So 2 before 6 would be 4. 2 before 4 would be 2. And 2 before 2 would make 0. So let's do that on the bottom. But this time it's by 1s on the bottom. So 1 before 4 would be 3. 1 before 3 would be 2. And 1 before 2 would be 1. So the y-intercept is 1. Y-intercept is 1, and slope is a half. And slope is the thing we multiply times x. The first answer choice says the value of y is 1/2 more than 1x. Are we going to have 1x? Nope. And the value of y is 1 more than 2x. Do we have 2x? No, we have half. The value of y is 1 more than 1/2 x. That's our choice. Number 4. A cell phone company charges monthly rate of $20. Each talk minute is $1.50. What equation can be used to find the amount it will cost C to talk M minutes in 1 month? That's pretty expensive if they're charging by the minute. So the monthly rate is 20. That means even if you don't use your phone at all, you still have to pay 20. Plus, you have to pay for minutes. So if they charge $1.50 each minute, each means to multiply. So $1.50 times the minute. Well, they didn't write it as a decimal, they wrote it as a fraction. So 1/2 is the same as 3 over 2. So which one of those answer choices matches what I just wrote down? Look for the one that's multiplying 3 over 2 times m. Because this one is multiplying 20 times m. So the correct answer is that one. Number 5, Stuff Mart sells shoes for $65 a pair. Socks sell for $8 a pair. Essence is buying 2 pairs of shoes and X pair of socks. Write an equation to use to find Y, the total price Essence must pay in dollars. Okay, $65 a pair for shoes. She's going to buy shoes and socks. It says she's going to buy 2 pairs of shoes. So 2 pairs times 65. Then it says she's going to buy the socks. And it doesn't say how many pairs of socks. It just says X. So then that would be 8 times X. Let's go ahead and work out what they gave us. They gave us the 2 times 65, so let's go ahead and work that out. 2 times 65 is 130. So 130 plus 8 times x for the socks. There's our equation. Y equals 130 plus 8 times x. Number 6 should be the easiest one on the test. State the slope and y-intercept of the graph of y equals negative 1/8 x plus 10. Remember, the number next to x is the slope, and the number by itself is the y-intercept. So is the slope 1/8? Nope, it's negative 1/8. So the slope is not negative 10, and it is not 10, it is negative 1/8. And the y-intercept is 10. So the only possible answer choice is that last one. Number 7, write an equation to represent the relationship between the independent and dependent quantities in the table. Again, we're going to need the slope and y-intercept. The y-intercept is where x equals 0, and x is not 0. So similar to the last problem we did like this, we need to look for a pattern, and then we're going to count backwards until we find where x is 0. So it looks like every time they are counting by 2's. So if I go back from 2, that would be 0. So on the bottom, what are they counting by? 1's. So if I go backwards from 0, that would be negative 1. So the y-intercept is negative 1. Then we need to find the slope. Well, we just found what the y's were changing by. They're changing by 1. And the x's are changing by 2. Now we plug in that information into our equation. Y equals, and it's slope times x, so 1/2 times x plus the y-intercept, which was negative 1. You can also write that as 1/2 x minus 1, because plus a negative 1 is the same as just minus 1. Number 8, write an equation to match the situation. Miley made 5 bracelets over the weekend. She plans to continue by making 2 bracelets per day. Find the total number of bracelets Miley makes in 10 days. Makes in X days. So we're just writing the equation. She starts out with 5, and she's going to make 2 per day. So 2 times X. So 5 plus 2X. So the equation is going to be y equals 2x plus 5. Or you can write it y equals 5 plus 2x. Either way. Number 9. A t-shirt company charges a design fee of $30 and then sells the shirt for $8 each. The total cost y can be represented by the equation 8x plus 30, where x represents the number of t-shirts. Describe what the slope and y-intercept represent. Well, the slope is the 8, and 8 each. That means 8 times what? Times the shirts. So 8 is the slope, and slope is the number that we multiply. So it needs to be a multiply word, similar to each. The first choice says slope represents the cost per shirt. Is that a multiply word? Yes, it is. The second choice says slope represents the cost of the design fee. Well, is there any multiply word describing the slope? No, there is not. So that can't be correct. We also need to look at the y-intercept. It represents the one-time design fee. That is what the slope is. It's a one-time design fee. I'm sorry, that's what the y-intercept is. Y-intercept always happens just once. It's the constant. Y-intercept only happens one time. So our choice is the first one. Number 10. The graph represents the linear relationship between the number of questions completed since Michaela joined the math club. Which statement supports the rate of change in this relationship? So they gave us 2 dots. And this over here represents the questions, and these numbers down here represent the days. Now let's look at some of the answer choices. It says Michaela answered 4 questions in the first 7 days. 4 questions. Questions are over here. So if I go to 4 questions, would that be 7 days? No. The next answer choice says Michaela answered 4 questions in the first 2 days. Is that what it said? 4 questions in 2 days? Yes. Let's check the other answer choice just to be sure. Michaela answered 2 questions. That would be here. In 4 days. No dot there. So that can't be correct. So the correct answer is the middle choice. Question 11. Coach has a jar of nickels and quarters totaling $10.25. The equation below can be used to determine the number of quarters in the jar. Solve the equation to determine the number of quarters Coach Hall has. Okay, so the way we solve an equation is to get the variable, which is Q, all by himself. So first we move the y-intercept, or the constant, the one that does not have anything next to it. No coefficient numbers. First we do the single person. So the opposite of adding $2.50 is subtracting $2.50. So if we subtract $2.50, they'd cancel over here, and I'd have just 0.25 times Q equals $7.75. The next step is to get the cube alone. So the opposite of multiplying by 25 cents is dividing by 25 cents. And we do it on both sides. On the left side, it'll cancel, and Q will be by itself. Equal sign straight down. And then 7.75 divided by 0.25. Got to move the decimal over. 25 cents goes into 77 3 times. And then 25 goes into 25 once. So Q is 31. And when you put your answer in, you can just put 31. But he has 31 quarters. Number 12, Caleb bought a pizza for $5. He also bought some bottles of soda for $2 each. Caleb did not spend more than $12 on the pizza and the soda. What inequality can be used to find B, the number of bottles of soda that Caleb could have bought? Okay, well, first of all, let's go with not more than. So could he spend more than 12? No, it says not more than. So it needs to be less than. Could it be equal to 12? Would 12 be not more than 12? Yes. So it can be less than or equal to 12. So first of all, we can go through and mark out all the symbols that don't have that. Then he says he buys a pizza for $5. He also, which is a key word for add, buys bottles of soda for $2 each. Each is our multiplying word. So 2 times, and they used B. So 2 times B for bottles. Which equation does that match? There, so that's our second answer choice. Number 13. Raphael and Jesus each have a coin collection. The number of coins in Raphael's collection can be represented by X. The number of coins in Jesus' collection is 4 times the number in Raphael's. The total number of coins in both collections is 230. What is the X number for coins in Raphael's collection? So Raphael has X, and Jesus has 4 times that. So 4 times X. And if we total them, that means add, they're going to equal 230. So first let's put our X's together. That makes 1X plus 4X makes 5X's equals 230. And then remember, we have to get the X alone in order to solve it. So we do the opposite of multiply, because that's 5 times X. So the opposite of times 5 would be to divide by 5 on both sides. The 5's cancel. X comes straight down, equal sign straight down. And 230 divided by 5 is 6. So Raphael has 46 coins. Number 14. If X equals 14, which equation is true? So you could solve all those equations and see which one equals 14. Or since they give you answer choices, you can plug in 14 where X is. So let's do it that way. 60 minus 4 times 14. 14 times 4 is 56. So 60 minus 56 would be 4, which is not what they got. The next one would be 36 minus 3 times 14. 14 times 3 is 42. So 36 minus 42. Well, we got to remember those rules for integers. So my answer is going to be negative. And 42 minus 36 makes 6. So negative 6, which is not what they got. The next one is 2 times 14 minus 6. And 2 times 14 is 28. And 28 minus 6 would be 22. That one might be our answer choice. The last one is 2 times 14 minus 3. Well, 2 times 14 is still 28. Minus 3 makes 25. They did not get that. So the correct answer is that one. Number 15. Which number line represents the inequality? Well, I noticed first of all that all these number lines have a circle or a dot at the 20. So I bet D is going to be 20. Now that sign in between is less than or equal to. Now I don't see any negatives over here. Remember, if you're multiplying by a negative or dividing by a negative, you would have to flip the sign. So since there's no negatives, we're not going to be flipping the sign. It stays the same. So D needs to be on the little side because the alligator's not eating him. And little is on the left and big is on the right. So the lines that are pointing to the big side can't be it. Also, this symbol is less than or equal to, and that gets a solid dot. If it can be equal to it, it has to get a solid dot. So it can't be this one either, which means my answer is D. Number 16, very similar to 14. We could solve all those equations, or we could just plug in negative 18 every place we see a K. So this first one would be 3 times negative 18 minus 8. And negative 18 times 3 is going to be negative 54 minus 8. You have to remember those rules. Keep, change, opposite. So since they're both negatives, we're just going to add, and my answer will be negative 54 plus 8 makes negative 62, which is not what they have. The next one is negative 18 over 6 plus 2.5. Well, negative 18 divided by 6 would make negative 3 plus positive 2.5. Since they are different signs, we're going to subtract. And I kind of think of it like money. $3 minus $2.50 would be 0.50 or 0.5. And the bigger number is negative, so my answer is going to be negative, and they didn't put a negative sign, so that's not correct. Next one, negative 53 plus 4 times negative 18. 18 times 4 would be 72, so negative 53 plus negative 72. And since they're both negatives, we're just going to add, which would make it 122, which is nowhere near what they got. And the last one would be negative 18 over 3 plus 17. Well, negative 18 divided by 3 would make negative 6 plus 17. Different signs, so we're going to subtract. 17 minus 6 makes 11, and we take the sign of the larger, so it's positive 11, which is what they got. This is my answer choice. Number 17. What is the value of x in this equation? So this time we do have to solve it. So the first thing I'm going to do is subtract 5 from both sides because we want to do the opposite. Trying to ignore that. So if I do that, the 5's cancel on the left, and 3x comes straight down, equal sign straight down, and negative 67 and negative 5 make negative 72. And then we want to do the opposite of multiplying by 3, which would be dividing by 3. And you must do it on both sides. The 3's will cancel. X comes straight down, equal sign straight down. And 72 divided by 3 would be 26. Nope, 24. And it was a negative divided by a positive, so it's negative 24. Our answer is negative 24. Number 18. Which number line represents the inequality? And just like before, I'm going to use my answer choices. They all seem to be on 3. So B is going to be greater than 3. I don't see any negative symbols, so I'm not flipping the sign. So the sign stays the same. This time B is on the big side because the alligator's eating him. And big is on the right, little's on the left. So can't be that one or that one. It doesn't have an equal sign, so it gets an open circle. So that means it has to be B. Number 19. The model represents an equation. What is the solution for this equation? We're going to start out with the equation. It has little squares, and each little square represents 1. So if we count all those little squares, we get 36. Then there's an equal sign. These long strips represent x, and there's 2 of them, so that's 2x plus, and these little squares are negative 1s, so there's 6 of them. That makes negative 6. Now we need to solve. And remember, we get rid of the constant, that one first. So the opposite of plus a negative 6 would be plus a positive 6 to both sides. 36 plus 6 gets me 42. These 6's cancel. Equal sign straight down, and the 2x is all that's left. And then we divide by 2 on both sides. And we get 21 equals x. Number 20. Answer the questions below by writing 3 or 4 complete sentences in the space provided. Explain how to solve this equation. 3p plus 12 equals 18. Well, when we're solving equations, we do PEMDAS backwards. We're doing everything backwards. So we get rid of the adding or subtracting first. So first we would subtract 12. So that's what I'm going to write. Subtract 12 from both sides of the equation. When I do that, I'm going to be left with 3p on the left side, and on the right side, 6. So I'm going to write that. That will leave 3 times p equals 6. So the next thing we want to do is the multiplying or dividing. So we have multiplying by 3. The opposite would be to divide by 3. So I'm going to divide both sides by 3. When I divide both sides by 3, the 3's will cancel, and P is going to be 6 divided by 3 is 2. So I'm going to write the solution is P equals 2. Number 21. Answer the question below by writing 3 or 4 complete sentences in the space provided. Write a real-world problem based on the equation 3p plus 12 equals 18. So it's the same equation, but now we're going to put some words with it. So remember, this is my y-intercept, and a y-intercept only happens once. So what could we have Bob doing? I think he should shop. Maybe eat, because I'm hungry. So Bob's going to go buy something. Maybe Bob buys a pizza for $12. And he has to buy something else. So that is our slope, and our slope is something that is being multiplied. So what could Bob be buying 3 of? How about a drink? So he buys a pizza for $12 and 3 drinks for P amount, because we don't know how much the drinks cost. Bob spends a total of $18. Now for the pre-AP portion of the test. Number 22, Raphael has $20 in his bank, and he adds $5 every week. Based on this information, which representation best shows this relationship between the amount of money Raphael has in the bank and Y and the number of weeks that has passed X? Always start with the equation. So what would be the equation for this problem? He has $20. So he starts with 20. And he adds $5 every week. That means we're going to multiply 5 times the weeks. And X is supposed to represent weeks. And remember, this is supposed to be the y-intercept. So if I'm looking at these graphs, where the line crosses the y-axis has to be at 20. So that means it can't be C. And then we can try plugging in some of these numbers to see if any of those would work. If I plug in 1, it would be 5 times 1, which is 5, plus 20 would be 25, so that's right. 4 would be 5 times 4, which is 20, and 20 plus 20 would make 40, not 100. So it can't be A. Try B. If I plug in a 2, 5 times 2 would be 10, plus 20 would make 30, not 10. So the only one left is D. Let's try plugging in 10 and see if I get 70. 5 times 10 is 50. 50 plus 20 makes 70. So yes, it is D. Always start with the equation. 23. The ticket sales for a playoff game started at 6 a.m. The table shows the linear relationship between the number of tickets remaining and the number of hours since 6 a.m. What function can be used to find y, the number of tickets remaining, x hours since 6 a.m.? So we're going to write an equation from the graph. To write an equation, we're going to need a y-intercept and a slope. Slope is where we subtract the 2 points, so we just need to pick a couple of intervals. It doesn't matter which ones. I'm picking those. So the y would be the number of tickets, and hours is the x. So 2,000 minus 1,000. And the x that goes with 2,000 is 4, and the x that goes with 1,000 is 5. 2,000 minus 1,000 is 1,000. 4 minus 5 would be negative 1. And 1,000 divided by negative 1 would make negative 1,000. So the slope is negative 1,000. And remember, the slope is the number multiplied times x. So 1,000 times x. We could look at our answer choices and see which ones have that. This one does not. This one does not. And this one is missing the negative sign. So I think it might be that. But let's go find the y-intercept. Y-intercept is where x is 0. I don't see x being 0, so we need to count backwards. What would be before 1? 0. So then before this looks like they're counting by 1,000. So before 5,000 would be, they're counting every time we're taking away. So if I give back 1,000, that makes 6,000. So the y-intercept is 6,000. It is this answer. Number 24. A rocket is shot at a ground level and rises into the air at a constant rate. After 2 seconds, the height of the rocket is 25 feet. The rocket continues to rise at the same rate. Complete a table to show the relationship between the time in seconds x and the height of the rocket in feet y. Always start with the equation. Y-intercept is where it starts. So where did it start? A rocket is shot off at ground level and rises into the air at a constant rate. So it's starting at 0 because it's at the ground. Now my slope would be what we're multiplying times x. So after 2 seconds, it's at 25 feet. That would be 25 feet over 2 because slope is also the unit rate. So I need to figure out what would it be for 1. 25 divided by 2 would make 12.5. So my slope is 12.5. So if I put it all together, my equation is y equals 12.5 times x plus 0. Well, then I could just leave the plus 0 off, and for every second it's up in the air, I need to multiply by 12.5. And you can fill out the whole graph, but it really just asks at 16 seconds. So what is 12.5 times 16? Remember to move the decimal over. So it looks like it's going to be at 200 feet. Number 25. What is the solution to this equation? And I'm going to rewrite it over here so I don't have to write over something. Okay. Remember, when we're doing an equation, whatever we do on the left side, we have to do on the right side. And to start with, we want to put all the variables together. And we usually move the little guy. So there's 2 C's, or there's just 1 C. So I'm going to move the 1 C because he's smaller. And little is easier to move. So the opposite of a positive 1C is a minus 1C, or a negative 1C. And if I subtract them on the left, that leaves just 1C plus the 6, equal sign straight down. These cancel, and I have negative 8. Next, I want to put the singles together, the constants, so I can get the variable by himself. So next to the variable is plus 6. The opposite of plus 6 is minus 6 to both sides. They cancel. 1C, or just C, is left alone, equal sign straight down. And I have a negative 8 and a negative 16. Together, that would be negative 14. So the solution is C equals negative 14. 26. William earns a salary of $400. Johanna earns a salary of $600. William will receive a salary increase of $20 per month, and Johanna will receive a salary increase of $10 per month. What equation can be used to find X, the number of months it will take William to earn the same salary as Johanna? Let's put all of William's information together first. William earns a salary of $400. That's his starting point. And then he will receive an increase of $20 per month. Increase means plus. $20 per, that's a multiply word, so $20 times month, which they said to use X. So 20 times X. Now let's put all of Johanna's information together. She's going to start with 600, and she's going to increase, that's plus, $10 per month. Per means multiply, and month is supposed to be X, so plus 10 times X. And it said it wants it to be the same. That means these two need to be equal to each other. Which equation shows that? Of course, in my answer choices, they used M, and I think we're supposed to be using X. Number 27. Jasmine started with 30 pieces of paper and gave away X pieces of paper. Xavier started with 50 pieces of paper and gave away twice as many as Jasmine did. How many pieces of paper did Jasmine give away if they had the same number of pieces of paper left? Okay, again, let's start with Jasmine's. She had 30 pieces of paper. She gave away, that's minus, X pieces of paper. 30 minus X. Now let's put Xavier's together. He started with 50, and he gave away twice as many. So twice as many as X would be 2 times X. And again, give away means minus, so 2 times X. And at the end, we want them to have the same, so that means these two things have to be equal. Now we're going to have to solve. Remember, whatever we do to the left side, we have to do to the right side. And we want to put our variables together first. So over here on the left, I have 1X, and over here I have 2X. So I'm going to move the little guy, which is 2x because I see there is a minus sign in front of it, and a negative 2x is smaller. So the opposite of negative 2x is plus 2x. So over here on the left side, I'm going to have 30, and then negative 1x and a positive 2x makes a positive 1x. Equal sign straight down. On the right side, I still have 50, and the 2x's have canceled. Now we want to get the variable alone. Well, 1x is the same as just x, so I'm going to get rid of that little 1. And now I need to get rid of the 30. The opposite of adding a positive 30 is subtracting 30, and must do that to both sides. The 30's on the left canceled, x comes straight down, equal sign straight down, and 50 minus 30 makes 20. So my answer is x equals 20. Two schools are selling tickets to a dance. School A is selling tickets for $4 each and has already raised $150. School B is selling tickets for $5 each and has already raised $100. What equation can be used to find T, the number of tickets each school sells, so that the total amount raised is the same for both schools? Okay, start with the first school. Their beginning is 150. They've already raised, so that means they started with 150. And they're going to sell tickets. Well, when they sell the tickets, that's probably going to increase how much they got, so that's plus. And $4 each means times. And we're using T for our variable, so 4 times T. Then let's look at school B. They raised $100, so their starting point is 100. And they're going to sell tickets for $5 each. Again, when they sell tickets, that's probably going to increase, so that's plus. $5 each, that's 5 times. So 5 times the tickets. And we want them to be the same amount. That means they need to be equal to each other. So which equation matches what we just wrote? We want 4 times T. This one has 4 times T, but it has minus in front of it. And if we're selling the tickets trying to raise money, they probably would be adding to how much we raised, not minusing. And this one has 4T, but then they took away how much they raised. It's not minus, it would be plus. So the correct answer is right there. (29) Triangle ABC and triangle XYZ are similar right triangles. Write a proportion that can be used to show the slope of XZ is equal to the slope of AC. Okay, so remember, to find slope, we do the change of Y over the change of X. So the slope for XZ would be those 2 points. So this point is 1, 9, and this one is -15, -3. So the slope of this one is going to be, the y's are 9 minus -3, and the x that went with 9 is 1, and the x that went with -3 is -15. So that's the slope for xz. You can go look for that. See if you can find that somewhere where they are subtracting those points. Okay, look at the first answer choice. I see negative 15 and 1, and we did use those numbers, but is that supposed to go on the top? No, x's are supposed to go on the bottom, so it can't be that. The next one has negative 3 minus negative 15. Do 3 and 15 both go on top? No, because only the y's can go on top, so it can't be that one. The next answer choice, it has the points in a different order. Is it still a negative 3 and a positive 9? Yes, they still subtracted them. They still use the same points. Negative 3, 15, and 9, 1. We still use the same points, so that one is probably it. Let's look at the points or the slope for AC. So this first point is 11, negative 11, and 0. And the C point would be negative 3 and 6. So the y's would be 6 minus 0. And the x that went with 6 was negative 3. And the x that went with 0 was negative 11. Again, the answer, they put the numbers in a different order, but 6 is still with negative 3, and 0 is still with negative 11. So that is probably